We have an incredible guest on today's podcast. I'm super passionate about, topics like addiction and even things like incarceration and, how do you become sober if you're struggling with, addictions, and how can you bring in Christ into that process with you so that you're not, going down that journey alone. And, as someone who was addicted to nicotine for a bit, I'm now off of it. So I'm
There you
happy
go.
about
Congrats.
that. Thank you. But, I've experienced addictions. I was addicted to pornography when I was younger, and so I was just very passionate about this topic. But today's guest has one of the craziest stories we've ever had on the podcast. Rob Lohman battled alcohol, drugs, and gambling. He survived a suicide attempt, got sober, and then 11 years into sobriety, had his life completely unravel and was sentenced to 13 years in prison. Today, he's turned that pain into purpose, helping people and families battling addiction through it. Through Lifted from the Rut, which is his Christian organization. They have interventions and coaching here in Denver, Colorado. He has his new book, The Addiction Intervention Book, which is out at addictioninterventionbook.com. If you guys want to book him as a speaker, it's roblohmanspeaks.com. And Rob, welcome to the pod, brother.
Yeah, cool. Thanks for inviting me. Excited
Thanks
to be
for
here.
coming, dude.
Yeah.
I'm happy to have you. Rob, I'm just going to get into it.
Yeah.
Rob, you were sentenced to 13 years in prison. I want to know what happened.
Yeah. Well, if you think about it now, we're in 2026. So that was sentenced in 2013. So
Wow.
Technically, I should have been getting out last month
Yeah.
on the 13-year prison sentence.
Crazy.
Which is crazy when you think about it.
Yeah.
Actually, it would have been last month. So, there's so much wrapped up in that. But what I tell people is that, because I do addiction interventions around the country, and I'm sitting across from a guy who's struggling or a mom or whatever, and it's like, well, who are you, the guy to be in this room? I'm like, well, let me just tell you my rap sheet real quick. And I'll go through it kind of like you went down, like addiction, prison, struggling, gambling, bankruptcy, divorce, all those things. I'm like, so I'm really qualified to sit down and hear people's mess and just help them unravel that and see, like, what is their future really going to go? In prison, it was definitely one of those aspects in my life where when you look at the backstory of getting there, I would just say life was just way, way, way too chaotic, and there was too much pressure, and I didn't handle it well. I got sober in 2001 after an attempted suicide, and then fast forward to what you're asking about, it was dealing a lot with, I was a new father, a new husband first, then a father, then my daughter was born and had a business, was losing the business, and I just quit doing the things that were good for me, like going to Bible studies, going to church, going to my recovery meetings, doing all that stuff, and I just isolated myself. And my gambling addiction was completely out of control, and nobody knew I was even struggling with it.
Wow.
Yeah.
How did you get sentenced to 13 years in prison? What happened?
So the long and short story is we were hanging out. It was February 14th, 2012. So I had recently lost my insurance agency, and life was just really, really, really chaotic. And we stayed up that night watching this movie, 7 Days in Utopia. So if you've ever seen it, go check it out. It's basically a really inspirational movie about a guy that really never measured up to his dad. And for me, I felt like I never really measured up to God or to my wife. So I was dealing with a similar situation, but completely different story, right? And my family, they all went to bed. We had a good night. My kids were really young, 2 and 4. And I just stayed up, and I was hanging out on my couch, working on a side job and just trying to kind of process the movie. But I didn't know how much the movie negatively impacted me until years later. You have those moments where your trauma is just kind of stored in the basement of your brain and you're living kind of life on autopilot.
Yeah.
And I was living that way in my life, was just autopilot. Again, gambling, impulsivity, frontal lobe disconnect, is just kind of a person with addictions.
Yeah.
And family went to bed, and I was just hanging out. And the next thing I knew, without a plan, was I had set some boxes on fire on my covered patio in my townhouse. And you think about that moment of clarity, like, what the hell just happened? And not knowing really what happened until later. So I just ran upstairs and ripped my wife out of bed. My wife got my kids out of bed. I got my neighbors out of our townhouse community. And then right when we walked out the front door, the patio exploded because it melted the gas meter. And it was a terrible, terrible situation.
Yeah. So did you light the boxes on fire intentionally, or were you drunk when it happened?
No, I wasn't even drunk. I lived 11 years sober. But in my, I call it living in the basement, kind of living on auto drive in your life. I don't even remember doing it, but the only explanation was I did it.
Wow. And so why was there a sentencing for that? Was it attempted arson? Is that what
Yeah,
they
well, yeah.
called it?
It ended up boiling down to arson, and lives were in jeopardy, obviously, because we were in a townhouse community. It was scary, insurance aspects, all those kind of things really going on.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, I didn't know what to do. I mean, I knew I was going to get in trouble. I had to figure out how do I protect my family. So I just lied about it for weeks. And then it got to a point where I just needed to confess to my wife and just, she had an inkling I did it, not because I did stuff like that, but because we were just in a really tough spot in our life. And so there was just a lot of hiding inside, but not really knowing how do I reveal really what happened without jeopardizing like my wife and kids.
Yeah. Did anybody get hurt through that
No,
situation?
thank God. It was, excuse me, I say it was just property damage, but it was emotional turmoil, and we pretty much lost everything. And our neighbors, obviously had their impact.
Did everything burn down?
It didn't burn
complex?
down. It
Yeah.
just melted everything, like in our townhouse, and all the smoke damage and everything else. But we probably lost like 90% of our stuff, which is pretty much losing everything.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I mean, it was memories. My wife's yearbooks and baby books and all the things she can never ever get back. And all the stuff that we just lost that you just can never get back. But fortunately, yeah, nobody got physically hurt.
Yeah. So how long did you do in prison?
So I was facing 13 years in prison on 2 charges of arson. And again, that was in 2013. So
Yeah.
here you and I sit in 2026. And I was just thinking about that a few weeks ago. Like, it's just kind of wild, that journey. But in God's great grace and mercy, I was out in 10 and a half months.
Wow.
Lived in a halfway house for 11 months. And my poor wife was just back home, being single mom, trying to raise the kids. How do we do this? But thank God for Christian community, because they surrounded her and took care of her.
Yeah.
And it gave me time to think while I was away.
Yeah. What was prison like? Because I've been to some prisons just kind of like as a tourist, and I've seen what it could be like, the cells and the food. It looks really treacherous.
Yeah.
So I'd love to know about your experience in prison. Like, what was that like?
Well, at the time, I was the only person I knew that had ever been incarcerated.
Wow.
Now, when I work in the addiction field, like half the people I work with and know, like most of them have had some kind of record. But I didn't know the system, and my wife didn't know the system. On sentencing day, we're sitting there in the room. I was actually facing work release or 56 years in prison was the range. But just trusting God with the entire process, we just turned it over to Him and said, whatever it is whatever it is.
Yeah.
Right. And so we're sitting there in the courtroom, and it was chaotic, and we had about 12 or 13 different pastors in there, like just there to be with us and pray with us. And none of them really knew what was going to happen either.
Yeah.
And then when the judge hit his gavel and I walked through the door, like, we just thought I thought I was gone for 13 years. They thought I was gone for 13 years.
Yeah.
And it was terrible.
Yeah.
So walking through the door, not knowing where you were going, just handcuffed, and then began the journey of like, well, what's this going to be like? Do I talk to guys? Do I tell them my story? Do I tell them what happened? You're an older guy, with gray hair. They typically think you're in there for child molesting or something like that.
Yeah.
Not arson, So it was just, I was trying to navigate the process while I was in there. But with God, I had peace. It was the weirdest thing. Like, I just had peace, even though I was scared, but I just kept pressing into Him. And when you're in 23-hour lockdown for the first 2 weeks, while they're processing you and trying to figure out where to send you, maximum, minimum, medium, all these different prisons, I just kind of took it day by day.
Yeah. So what does one do in prison for 10 and a half months? Like, do you guys get to work out? Are you guys like hanging out? Is it like, are you in solitary confinement, reading your Bible? Like, talk to me about the actual like day to day of being in prison.
Sure. Yeah. So again, for the first couple weeks, they're figuring out where they're going to send you.
Yeah.
And then they send you to this place called Cell House 5 here in Texas. And that reminded me of real prison. Like, I thought that's what it was going to be like.
Yeah.
You're in your cell, the door slides, the bars slide open. You're looking across the hallway, or not the hallway, but I guess it was a corridor, at guys across you, and there's fights and just all this stuff happening. So I'm just like, I'm good being in my cell. I don't want to be out there in the general whatever population.
Yeah.
But then you're out there for the hour, and you could go work out or walk the yard or call your family and just kind of how you're going to spend your hour. Then you get locked up again. So that was for the next 2 weeks. And then they send you to the prison you're going to go to. And I didn't care where I was going. I just knew I didn't want to be there. Yeah. But while I was in my cell, I did push-ups. I bird bathed. I didn't go to the community shower.
What's a bird bath?
just stand there in your little
Oh.
sink in your, because fortunately I had a single cell, and I would just literally just use my little washcloth and just take a little armpit shit, clean your privates, just whatever, while you're sitting in there by yourself.
Yeah.
And then eventually they send you to the place you're going to go. And fortunately, I went to a minimum security camp. So as we're driving there with, I don't know, probably 100 people on the bus, who knows what it was, locked in these little cages with the guy next to you. Like we're two guys side by side in your little cage in the bus, going to wherever you're going.
Wow.
And then they transfer you to a van, because the 12 guys going to this place where I was going, they took you in a van and you're just out in the middle of Colorado and like, all right, if you guys need to go to the bathroom, go take a whiz. And I'm like, okay, I don't know where I'm going still. And you roll up to this place that you just don't know what it's going to be like. And fortunately, where I went, there were no bars. There were no, metal fences around the whole entire property. It was just a graded gravel kind of like circle around the entire prison. And thank God it was a minimum security camp, because I rolled up and there was a chapel on the left-hand side. So that gave me comfort. And then you just kind of began the daily process of like, what's your job going to be? So I worked in the kitchen. Some guys worked in like the trash area. Some guys dug holes.
Yeah.
But for the first actually 60 days, we literally just dug fence holes.
Wow.
And then in the desert, out in the boonies of Colorado.
Yeah.
Right. And I still didn't know what to tell people. Like, what are your charges? What do you do? But I just kept praying all the time. And here you are with guys from all sorts of places in the country. And I just asked for God to put the right people in front of me. They're guys that I could connect with. And eventually you kind of start making some friends, and you go to the gym. So my daily routine after I got into a routine, to answer your question, was I'd read my Bible for about 3 hours in the morning. I'd have this routine of doing devotionals, doing the Bible, doing prayer, doing journaling. Then I'd go to work in the kitchen, and I would just go to the gym and work out and find guys you kind of felt like you could maybe trust or get to know. And then that was kind of the routine. And I'd go to the library and read books, and I'd write my kids. And fortunately, my kid's school sent me his homework to do because they were young.
Yeah.
And I would talk to my son Zeke, and I was like, "Yeah, we're doing your homework together." And he's like, "Wait a minute, how do you know my homework?" And I would just tell him, "I had your school send me this so I could do this with you."
Yeah.
But it sucked.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
What would you say? Because, I think when we think about prisons, or we see like how they portray it online, it's like they treat them like animals. Like because the way you just described it, it's almost like a men's camp, but you're just isolated from the rest of the world.
Yeah.
So were you treated like an animal?
No, not at all. I mean, so I was in a minimum security camp. Now, if you go to like a Max or a Super Max or any of those things,
it's different.
I could imagine it was, because I would hear people's stories that were in like a Max, and then their sentences got turned over or reduced, and then they went down kind of like the severity of prisons, and then they end up at the camp.
Yeah.
And because that's kind of the last stop before you go home. So most guys were on like pretty good behavior there because they knew that was the way out.
Yeah.
But I saw enough guys get handcuffed and taken back to the higher level of where they were before because of just doing stupid crap, like hitting on the female teacher, like leading the class, whatever, if people want to take classes.
Yeah.
And then you just know they're going to get cuffed and take somewhere else. But the great thing was there were tons of volunteers that would come in and lead these life learning classes. So I would just go to every single one of those. I spent a lot of time at the chapel.
Yeah. I
spent a lot of time crying and just missing my family and just wondering what they were going through.
Were they able to visit you?
Yeah, they came out. So I saw my kids for 6 total days of the 10 and a half months I was gone.
And was that because there was limitations on visitation, or was it because that's how much they chose to come?
Just distance. They could have come every weekend.
Oh, they could have.
Oh yeah,
Wow.
but it was a 5.5 hour drive. My kids were at that time, they were I think 3 and 5. And it was just a lot of my wife to like navigate that and come over, and it wasn't pleasant. I mean, when they would leave, I mean, we got to hang out in like the family area.
Yeah.
But then when they would leave, my son, and I wonder how this will impact him later, but I mean, you could hear him scream and cry from the point that they left me to the point he got into the car and they drove off. And it was awful. And my wife, we couldn't really talk about a whole lot of stuff, like what happened, because I mean, you're kind of like monitored, and I'm not going to open up, and I didn't get marriage counseling, but it was, I'm glad they were able to come, but it was very hard on my wife. And I don't know how, again, the memories my kids have, we don't really talk about it, but there's got to be some deep down of just that traumatic time for them.
Yeah. And are you still with your wife to
Yep.
this day?
Yeah.
Wow. So
Yeah.
she stuck with you.
So
through
she
that
had to go
process.
through her own deal of like, do I stay with him? Is my husband nuts? Is he crazy? And we had friends that would say, hey, you need to leave him. Like, I mean, you almost died. I mean, we all could have died in the fire.
You weren't trying to kill your family.
Oh, no.
right?
No, it was literally just it's kind of like if I go back to when I got sober 25 years ago, I was doing a lot with suicide ideation, impulsivity, the chaos of substance abuse addiction.
Yeah.
And the night that I got sober, I literally was hanging out in a bar that night, and I audibly heard God, I believe, say, "You're done." Like we were hanging out and there was music, everything got dead silent. I audibly hear the words, "You're done." And then the bar got really loud again. And I drove home that night with, I feel like Jesus in the passenger seat and me driving the car.
Yeah.
And somehow we got home together.
Yeah.
And I walked up 12 steps in my 1-bedroom apartment. No plan, just like autopilot, driven by the subconscious. And next thing I knew, I put 350 pounds on the barbell. Yeah.
What the heck?
I know. It's like, it would have just looked like a dumb drunk accident, right?
Yeah.
But the intention was to kill myself.
Oh my God.
And I picked it up and unhinged my elbows. And in the moment of me unhinging my elbows, what I feel happened was that God just kind of looked down and was like, not today, because my God, I call Jesus, carries the weight of the world. And I feel like he was just holding that barbell. It's kind of like, all right, are you done? But he sent my dog over, which I believe was God revealing himself to me through my dog. He's done that a lot with animals in my life.
Wow.
And my dog Jake came over and just started nudging my knee with his head. Like, what are you doing, Dad?
Yeah.
And I'm looking down at him like, holy crap, who's going to feed you tomorrow?
Yeah.
And just those, I mean, this is all milliseconds of time, right? But just looking at him and seeing his eyes, I mean, I feel like that was God just looking back at me and saying, all right, we're done. And he put that barbell back on the rack. And that was the first time I slept in peace in decades.
Wow.
And well, I wouldn't say decades because I was 29. I started drinking at 14, but in a long time, right? But I went from a guy that could drink 2 bottles of scotch in a day, a couple cases of beer, whatever. I'm not proud of that, but that's just my tolerance because I was in sales and marketing, and he just took it away.
Wow.
Just done. Never had a craving in 25 years, but gambling stuck around. The behavior stuck around. The impulsivity, the frontal lobe disconnect. Like now that I work in the addiction field, like I know a lot more about the brain and neuroscience, but I was a hot mess.
Wow. Can you walk me through like before prison?
Yeah.
How alcohol, drugs, and gambling actually got into your life? Like, where did that start?
Yeah. Well, I grew up in a Christian home, and there was no you hear some people's stories, and I feel like you could look at their story and say, I could understand why you drink. It's just like I would drink too. So some people's stories they're just tragic. Mine was just not. There was alcohol always around, so it was more of a social thing. Not in my house, but more like summers and stuff. So it just looked attractive. I didn't know I had grandparents who were alcoholics, uncles, aunts, cousins. Like, I didn't know any of that. My kids now, which are 18 and 16, they know our family history and stuff. And I'm not slamming on my parents for not telling me. It just wasn't talked about.
Yeah.
Right. So that was just kind of it from 14 to 29. It was just wild, Rob, jumping out of boats at 60 miles an hour just because seemed like a good idea, but I'd never had any serious consequences in my life. I'd say until prison,
Yeah.
But the drinking just continued on. I went to college to become a doctor, graduated in 4 years somehow, but never went to med school.
Yeah.
Because I say that if you ever put alcohol and potential in the same room, alcohol won every single time. Like when I quit swimming my senior year of high school because we were getting drunk before practices. I had to make a decision to quit swimming or quit drinking, and several of us chose to quit swimming. Like, what could that have been like? I don't know. No regrets. If I look back on it, like, man, if I just would have not done that, this would have happened. I'm like, no, then I'm playing God. I don't know. Right. But if my whole life, if you look at it, it's like I was trying to get the quick fix, trying to cut corners, trying to do this, and just all that, the patterns just continued for so long. So that was kind of it. I mean, and then I got sober, like I told you, in the barbell incident.
Yeah.
And I stepped into recovery.
Yeah.
Started going to AA and 12-step meetings, and my whole community changed. Life was flipping amazing. I was happy, joyous, and free. And I got back to my faith.
Wow. Talk to me about your relationship with Jesus.
Yeah.
Like how did that initially begin? I know you grew up in a Christian household, it
Yeah.
sounds like, but do you have a day or like did you have like a supernatural encounter with Jesus? Like was that
I just grew up Christian.
just go Christian?
There was no supernaturalness until the evening of the
Suicide.
the suicide, and then many, many, many moments since 2001 of just incredible journeys with Jesus
Yeah.
that I've gone on with him, and it's very obvious that he's imprinting that on my heart in those moments.
Yeah. Yeah, it's incredible. I want to ask you a personal question. So I have a family member who is addicted to alcohol in the sense of this person drinks every night. So like every night there's a couple, glasses of whiskey, and the excuse of it is, oh, this is for my sleep. Like it helps me go to bed. And this has been happening for 20, 30 years, like the same routine, right? How does one break that? How do you get out of that cycle? Because obviously, like from a scientific standpoint, what I understand is there's alcohol withdrawal. So if you just stop drinking, that could be super dangerous if you've been doing it for that long.
Sure.
But first of all, how does that person get the willpower and desire to stop? Like, where does that happen? And then and then walk me through like the logistical steps of actually improving.
Yeah. Would you say, is this person aware that there's a problem with it, or it's just their medicine to sleep? How would you describe that?
I think both. Like,
Yeah.
I think the person knows that what they're doing is wrong, right? But they're just so hooked on it, and it's like, this is my sleep. I'll try. It's almost like there's a depressive state, and this is the one thing that is keeping them good.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there are obviously other ways people can do things to help them sleep better besides drink every night. Yeah, melatonin. Yeah. If we work on getting our gut healthy, that's going to naturally produce the chemicals we need to get good sleep and feel better and all that. So part of it's the health issue, right? So if we can incorporate maybe working on getting their gut healthier, they're going to feel better, not want to drink at night, and actually sleep better, but not believe the fact we're telling them that. But like there is a way you can actually sleep better. And some people will say, well, do you think I'm an alcoholic?
Yeah.
Like, well, I never have told one person in my entire life, you're an alcoholic.
Yeah.
But I'll just ask them, are you dependent on it? Like if you're going to bed and you got one beer left, but you have two, are you freaking out? Is the anxiety going up? Like, how are you dealing with that? Because what we want to do is get to the root of the problem, which isn't really our gut necessarily. It could be trauma. It could be all sorts of things. Like, when did it start? Why do we need it? And I talk to a lot of people like, I just have a couple scotches a night before I go to bed. That's just how I unwind. Like, what if you unwound by going for a walk for 30 minutes?
Yeah.
What if you unwound by like journaling or doing a gratitude list?
Yeah. What
if you quit watching CSI right before you go to bed because that's giving you anxiety, and just put better things into your head before you go to sleep?
Yeah.
And so I would say maybe a taper down thing. Like, hey, if you're drinking 2 drinks a night, try 1.
Right.
Maybe skip Wednesday. Yeah. See how you feel Thursday. Yeah. Let's get some healthier stuff. Take some melatonin. Yeah. Take maybe some supplements, because a lot of people abuse alcohol, and we know our food these days isn't the healthiest. So it's like we are completely depleted no matter what. So how do we incorporate certain things if they're willing to try it?
Yeah. So I guess that's my question, right? Is they have to be willing to make the change.
Yeah.
And I think when you've been doing something for 30 years, it's like, you're stuck in your ways. Like you don't want to make the change, especially if you are depressed or you are dealing with this and this and this. So what would you say to someone that is in that position? Like, how do you, because, then you have the loved ones for the person that are seeing them do this to themselves every single day.
Yeah.
And it's like, especially when it's someone close, I think it can get, even more challenging because you don't want to overstep or, be that like the guy that's like, stop drinking. Like, so how does someone approach that?
Well, I think there's different levels of how bad it's gotten. If it's just literally, if their life's going on perfectly fine outside of that, and they're holding down their job and they're going to the kids' soccer games and like being involved in life, but they just unwind with a couple drinks. I don't know. Is it really hurting them that bad? Get blood work done.
Bad,
yeah,
right?
It's not good. Body. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's opening eyes like, hey, let's just maybe get some blood work done to just see how this is affecting you. Let's see how your liver enzymes are. Can we start there in the aspect of that? Because presenting conversations where then people can become willing is what I do in the intervention process. Because Because people call me all the time like, hey, my mom's doing this, my brother's doing this, my sister's doing this. But if I say something to them, they may not ever talk to me again. It's like, yeah, but if you don't say something to them, the opportunity might come where they won't have the chance to talk to you again because something happened.
Yeah.
Like we want to avoid natural consequences and like the law enforcement interventions.
Yeah.
And just say, hey, we're here to like sit down and talk to you because we love you. We're concerned. Your daughter's concerned. Your mom's concerned. Your boss is concerned. Like we smelled on you in the morning at work. Like this is becoming a problem. Yeah. And we want to give you some solutions to change. It's your choice in the end if you want to change, but and if there's a faith piece to it, let's get you back to where God really has you to operate your full capacity.
Yeah.
So you can really change your life and be an example to others. Because here's what I've learned over the years. The person you're talking about that drinks a couple drinks at night, maybe when they go to a barbecue, they usually have to have a couple beers at the barbecue.
Yeah.
Most people at the barbecue don't actually want to be drinking. They're just drinking because everyone else is drinking.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, let's try having a sober barbecue one time.
Yeah.
And if nobody comes, then, or if some people do come, it's just such a societal thing that we got to drink or have edibles to feel good or do this or have some other, or do a couple lines of cocaine or go have an affair or look at pornography or gamble. I mean, there's so many forms of addiction these days that but if we don't say something as a loved one, I feel like we're doing a disservice to the loved one.
Yeah. What's the frequency of which you should be saying something? Like how often? Is it like every day? Like, hey, like how's this going? Like
I probably wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
I mean, every day they get it. Maybe it's the hard, like, let's put it this way. If it doesn't change, then what boundaries are the loved ones willing to put up? Like, how bad is it that says we need to actually put up some healthier boundaries? Like, if they're married, say, you know what? If you're going to be drinking every night, then you can sleep in the other bed.
Yeah.
Because you snore, you whatever. Like, I don't want to be around it. So, or I'm going to sleep in the other room, and you can sleep by yourself until you want to get sobered up.
Yeah.
Or we're not going to have sex if you've been having a couple drinks because I want to be connected to you through God and in the Holy Spirit to have like this union. But I'm not going to sleep with you if you're married, right? And that's one of the blessings of being married is, to procreate and have fun. But on a healthy level, I mean, there's also a non-healthy way of doing that. But just trying to figure out like, what are your boundaries as the loved one to put into place to help bring about change? Because if you change, family member, then your loved one's bound to change in a positive or negative way.
Yeah. Yeah. My friend always says, he always says, like, don't tell the person about Jesus, like show them through your actions. And this loved one that I'm referring to is someone that is very close to me.
Yeah.
And for many years, I tried to talk about the Bible or talk about Jesus or whatever. And then I realized that it wasn't working. So I started to just show up for them and love them and hug them and all that. Just like I would drive a couple hours to go see this person and give them a hug and then leave, stuff like that, just to show them.
Yeah.
Because I felt like that's what Jesus would do. But nothing's changing. Like there isn't any sort of positive progression.
Yeah.
And so it's like, at what point do you just be like, man, I can't, like you got to like live your life. But then I know that like Jesus wouldn't, he wouldn't stop. You got to just keep until until God just somehow like pulls the alcohol out of this person's head. Like it's crazy.
Yeah. There's a phrase we use sometimes. It's like, hey brother, I'm going to love you in your recovery, but I just can't support you in your addiction anymore or your dependency. Like I'm so scared and afraid and all these things. Like I'm driving 2 hours to see you. I'm doing these things.
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to love on you. I can love you from afar or I can love you from close. But I just can't keep doing this. Like I just see you're just ruining your life. Like you're ruining your health. Like throw some ideas out there and say, I'm just concerned. You may not be concerned, but for my own protection, I just got to start distancing myself a little bit from this. And I'll check in on you every few weeks. So like every week.
Yeah.
Or just whatever. But hey, by the way, here's some resources I found if you want to check them out.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to call them in front of you because there's too much pride potentially. But if you take them stuff and research stuff and like drip it on them, there's a chance. Or just pray that God will put some other person in their life that's not you.
Yeah.
That will be that story of just, because you mentioned nicotine earlier, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So when I got sober, I've never had a sober cigarette. But I smoked a lot of cigarettes when I drank.
Yeah.
And then when I drank, I had my dipping tobacco, and that was my vice. I was like, I'm dipping, I'm working out, like I'm good, but I want to quit dipping today.
Yeah.
It was a couple weeks afterwards, and I was living out in North Carolina. I'm like, okay. So I got my can out, and I'm like, I'm packing the can with my finger, and I'm like, all right, now I'm done today. I threw the can out the window.
Yeah.
I did that like 10 times that day.
Yeah.
And I went straight to the store, and I bought another can.
Bought
I'm like, you know what, God, I'm just going to quit when you say it's time to quit.
Yeah.
In a short period of time after, I was sitting with a buddy of mine. He takes his retainer out, and he goes, puts it on the table. I said, I didn't know you had fake teeth. He goes, yeah. I was like, what's that from? He's like, dipping. I'm done.
Oh,
and that was it. I was done.
Yeah.
It was just the right timing, but it had to come from not my parents saying, hey, maybe you should, or my brother or whatever, friends. It just took that moment.
Yeah.
Where my eyes were open. I'm like, I don't want to have fake teeth.
Yeah.
And I still don't.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you don't have fake teeth.
Yeah. Yeah. And if I did, there's plenty of technology out there to do it, but you just, it's just a matter of timing with some people in the conversation and be in the right space. I mean, even in prison, it was just talking to guys, and just hearing their stories. It's like, maybe I want to come to church. Come check out chapel. What's this Kairos thing? And just all these cool things. And you just like bring it up to people. Yeah. And there was a quick funny story about when I was in prison so I would read every 3 hours in the morning. Yeah. And there was a acquaintance of mine. He was a Wiccan, right? So he was all about sweat lodges and, blackbirds and just all his stuff he believed in, right? He thought I was crazy. Studying what I'm studying. I thought he was weird for studying what he was studying. But we were both passionate about what we were studying, right? So we were committed to whatever we were studying. But he would walk by me every morning, and eventually he would just say, oh, still reading that Jesus stuff? I said, yeah. I said, how are your blackbirds? It was just this thing, right? And then there was this event called Kairos where these volunteers come in for, I think it was like 4 or 5 days, and outsiders come in and they bring like homemade food. And these people are loving on us, and I got to be one of the leaders, right? And so I got to help facilitate some of the stuff around the table because the chaplain trusted me. And who did I get paired up with at one of our tables? This guy, my Wiccan friend. Yeah. And he was just egging me, like just jabbing at me all day. And I just had enough. I was like, what is your problem, bro? And it was just like, he stepped back, everyone stepped back, and he's like, yep, see, I knew it. You Christians. And I'm like, he was just waiting for me to crack as a Christian. Yeah. Well, the good thing is I don't have to be perfect. Yeah. But we actually became so much closer after that because he thought he had to be perfect. He actually got baptized while I was still at prison. Wow. It was so cool.
Praise God.
It took that breaking point to just say, oh, you guys aren't all just perfect like I tweet you to be. Yeah. But God put us in that moment, and it was the right timing that he needed and I needed, I guess, to break in front of a bunch of other Christian leaders and men. And it was actually a really cool, weird moment, but God wasn't surprised that moment happened. Yeah. And then after that, he was curious about the Bible, and it began. Eventually he ended up getting baptized there, which was really cool. And we did Bible study together towards the end, and you just never know what's going to happen. But some of those bad, explosive moments in our life aren't actually necessarily like the worst moments. If I can learn from them, I won't say we, but as a people, if we can learn. Yeah. And I'm stubborn, I'm hard-headed sometimes, and I just don't learn so quickly. Yeah. My wife will attest to that.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to dive deeper into your wife and kind of her psychology through this whole process, and we'll come back to that. But before we do, I like what you said, because I think for people that have family members that are dealing with addiction and they love that person so much, and they're not seeing the change, I think a lot of people probably take the burden on themselves. Like, why can't I help my loved one? Like, why can't I? And I think what you said is so important, that that's not that person's responsibility. First of all, it's God's responsibility to change that person, and he might send someone else. He might send a dog, like you had in your situation. Like, it could be anything. Yeah. And so I just want to encourage people that are listening that if you have a loved one that is dealing with addiction, that you should not put that on yourself as your responsibility. And really, I'm saying this because it helps me feel better. So I'm just being honest. But I do believe that. But I do think that we need to try our best, every day, and just be obedient. And if God says, hey, like sometimes you'd be like, hey, send this person scripture or send them a song or worship, I would try to be obedient to that. Yeah. Because what you said, like, you want to have the conversation before it's too late, because at some point it might be too late.
Yeah. And there are those times where people call me and and they'll hear me speak on a platform or a conference or whatever, and they'll come up and talk. I'll give them my cell phone number, say, hey, just call me.
Yeah.
And they don't call. I always make sure I get their number.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to pick the phone up and, lower your pride and say, okay, hey, my wife's still struggling. What can I do? Or my son, he's about to get kicked out of college. What do I do? I'm like, oh, let him get kicked out of college. Maybe that's what he needs. I don't know. Right.
Yeah. But
just having those heart to heart conversations, because I have had those moments where people call, like, we're just not ready to do something. We're just going to wait till they lose their job, or we're going to wait till CPS gets involved, or we're going to wait till he gets a DUI or she gets a DUI. I'm like, man, it might be too late.
Yeah.
Like, what if they get a DUI because you don't want to say something because you're afraid they won't talk to you ever again, and now they've killed somebody in a DUI, and now they're in prison.
Yeah.
And there's that regret, right? So really, like, the intervention work I do is really for the family to learn healthy boundaries. How do we address the conversation? How much is it really impacting us?
Yeah.
And then we give the opportunity to their loved one to say, I want help or I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
the loved a choice.
Oh yeah, and then the loved one can say as often, well, you're not giving me a choice. You're making me go to rehab. I was like, well, actually, we are giving you a choice.
Yeah. And
you're still choosing your pathway. But your family is learning these new boundaries now. Yeah. And if they uphold them, family, if you uphold your boundaries, then your loved one's going to see the change. And then sometimes they might come back around. But it has to be a family system work. It can't just be about, well, I've been married to him for 20 years and he's been drinking for 20 years or she's been over shopping and blowing $20,000 a year for 10 years. And I'm like, well, yeah, you were both there.
Yeah. So
what it boils down to is like unhealthy communication, unmet expectations, the fear of stepping into conflict. Because I would say most people don't know how to do conflict.
Yeah.
I wasn't taught it as a kid.
Yeah.
I don't know if you were very well, but it was like, life just kind of happened and we figured it out. But if we can give people right tools, and that's why I wrote the addiction intervention book, was to say, hey, here's a whole bunch of different ways you can help families. And here's how a bunch of us interventionists around the country help families. So why don't you go learn from our experience? And then whether you want to hire somebody professionally, which I recommend, or don't, at least you got some tools you can like take into your own family style intervention. But when you have the random guy in the room, me, and then my buddy who like sometimes sits in the back of the room with his arms crossed, kind of like the bouncer guy, it's like, well, who's that guy? What's he going to do? I'm like, well, hopefully we'll have to figure that out today.
Wow.
But right now we're just sitting here talking to you. This is all about you today.
Yeah. Okay, let's get into this. I never, this wasn't on my questions list, but I'm actually very curious. So when you think about interventions, right? Because I'm imagining, and I keep going back to my personal experience because it's close to my heart.
Yeah.
But like, if I'm at a point now where it's like nothing's working, so I call someone like you, can come into the room. Is that best done where the person who's struggling with addiction doesn't know that there's going to be an intervention? It's almost like a surprise. Like he pulls up to the house and he's like, what the heck?
Yeah.
Like, is that the best way to do it? Or is it more having a conversation of like, I think we need someone to come in, almost like a therapist, and then you structure it around that?
It can be done either way. I'd say there's like a 3-tiered approach depending on the severity of the situation. I mean, if it's like full blown, if they drink another drink, they're going to die. Or if they do in their line or their coke or their veins are all shot and they're just like a crisis emergency.
Right.
Then it's treated a completely different way. But let's just say it's the concern. We're just concerned because my wife is doing this or my husband's doing that and drinking too much or whatever, smoking too much pot. Right. Well, let's think about this. If you asked your loved one, hey, I met this guy, Rob. He's a pretty cool dude. He lives in the area. Will you please just go have coffee with him? Because I don't know how to help you. But he talks to people all the time. And I don't even know what you guys talk about, but just go have coffee with him. And so we'll try that approach sometimes. And sometimes they'll take me up on it and be able to get people in rehab that way. Most of the time it's like, screw that. I'm not going to go meet with somebody because you're the problem. You're the reason I drink. And that. Okay, well, then we can also try, hey, on Wednesday, we need to have a family discussion. And I don't know anything about rehab or treatment stuff, but your liver, you're jaundiced, you're dying, and we need to do something. So I've invited this guy to come over and talk to us. He's got some resources he wants to share with us. Are you open to that? No. And then we do the full-on intervention where we're hanging out down the street. Yeah. Everyone's in their car or we're already in the house and they're coming home. There's a lot of different ways to kind of stage it. Some interventionists are like, don't ever do it in people's homes. Like, I'm going to do it where we can find the person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like if we need to say, hey, we're going down, we need to sign some life insurance papers at our life insurance guys thing, and we'll just use this conference room. It's like, surprise, we're all here because there's no life insurance signing. But we're here to talk to you about life. You know what I mean?
That's funny.
So there's a lot of different ways to kind of do it. But, I'd probably say more than half the time is that scenario where we're just all together. We roll up in the cars. We block their car in if we need to or whatever.
Wow.
We walk in the front door, and there's a strategy on who walks in first, second, third. Where do we try to sit in the house? Is there a back exit? How do we block? Like there's hours and hours and hours that go into preparing for an intervention.
Yeah.
Not just, okay, good talking to you guys. We'll see you on Tuesday, and we go. But I interview every family member. We get the backstory because the brother might talk about the sister that's struggling and say, oh, actually, she was actually like raped when she was 13. But I never told my parents because it was our Uncle Billy. I'm like, okay, that's some serious trauma right there, right? Or my brother or my dad has a terrible gambling addiction, but no one else knows. Okay, so now we have process addictions happening outside of substance abuse. Well, this program we're going to refer to, can they handle process addictions with gambling or gaming or sex and porn and food addictions?
Yeah.
Well, if there's a food addiction, we're definitely going to not go to these programs because they don't deal with that. That's a whole different animal. And it's a whole different intervention. Like I will not do food addiction interventions at all. I'll refer it out because it's a completely different psychology to what's actually going on. So, but there's a lot of different ways to present it. But the funny thing about going back to your question is option one, hey, we go have coffee with this guy. And then I show up at the intervention. I said, dude, we could have done this for coffee 2 weeks ago. Just you and me. We didn't need this whole thing.
Yeah.
But the intervention really is for the family to say what they need to say. And they all write their impact letters, but I review all of them. I'm like, we are not here to resolve family issues. We're here to get your loved ones to say, yes, I need help. That's the only goal today. And when they say, I'm ready to go, we stop reading letters. We already got a suitcase packed or something, or we take 20 minutes we have a plane reservations or we got a car driving them somewhere or it's all lined up if and when they say yes.
Awesome.
And I tell the families, I was like, look, they might say no.
They might force them.
They might try to run out of the house.
Yeah.
Which I've only had happen once and they came back. I've not been shot at, but I've had guns pulled on me. I've been spit in the face. I've had to call the cops for an intervention because it just got totally unsafe.
Yeah.
Like we do all the exploration of, do they have guns in the house? Yes. Okay. Well, we're not doing it there.
Yeah.
Like, does anyone else know the code? I mean, I've had some wild tripping ones, man. It's just like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Like, why am I doing this? Because I want to help people.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
Yeah. And even now, like we have this Christ-centered outpatient program here in Colorado, and we do random drug testing during the week. And even if they're clean, the family members still think they're cheating, and it's like, they don't trust them. And I was like, well, yeah, you kind of earned that right to not be trusted.
Yeah.
So just take it. But you work on you. You stay in your circle and you work on you. We're going to give your family resources to work on them.
Yeah.
And hopefully when your circles collide again, it's more like a blending of fingers. It's not like a big two fists kind of banging at each other.
Yeah.
But I was like, you earned the right to not be trusted. Just as I have through going to prison and arson and all the things I've done. And that still rears its ugly head sometimes during marriage. And I'm like, I don't really want to talk about that. We've talked about it enough.
Yeah.
Like, but I need to still talk about it. I'm like, well, just because you need to talk about it doesn't mean I need to talk about it.
Yeah.
But if you need to talk about it, maybe I just need to chill out and get out of the way and let you talk about it again.
Yeah. Yeah. That's being a good partner. Who is the guy in the back in the intervention? Like,
it's one of my buddies, Todd.
What does he do?
He just sits back there and just doesn't say a word.
It's just security, like in case
he just sits there. Like if someone is aggressive,
he'll step up.
Yeah, and I mean Todd's no threat, but you don't know who Todd is in the background.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Todd, he's just a good buddy of mine. He just comes along sometimes. He works in the field, but the first time it was like, well, who's that guy? What's he going to do? I'm like, well, hopefully we don't have to find that out.
That's hilarious.
And we just keep moving on.
Yeah, that's so funny.
Because they don't know who I am. Yeah. They don't know what I'm capable of.
Yeah.
They don't know what power I have or not. I mean, we'll have papers drawn up for divorce papers at interventions, or we'll get CPS on the phone like, okay, if you don't say yes to some help, we're calling CPS today.
What's CPS?
Child Protective Services. Wow. Sorry.
Yeah.
All the acronyms, right? But yeah, it's like, we're ready to call them. And the family has to be ready because they've made these threats before. Like, we're not going into this if you're not going to follow through. because they're going to say, oh, yep, I knew they wouldn't do it again. Like, yeah, see, thank you, because you just wasted the money you paid me for the intervention, and we're right back to where we started.
Yeah. 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 That's very interesting. What's the difference between someone who is sober and someone who's healed?
Wow.
What is the difference?
That is a great question.
Thank you.
Your hands are resting on one of my favorite phrases right now. Recovery plus Jesus equals transformation.
Yeah.
And I look at this in the recovery world. So I got sober 25 years ago, and AA was like the only thing around.
Yeah.
And it has a huge purpose, and it has saved millions and millions of people's lives. And I'm going to speak to this from my faith perspective, my Christian perspective now, because I love AA for what it offers. What I don't like about certain programs out there is 20, 30 years down the road, people are still saying, my name's Rob, I'm an alcoholic. If I don't go to a meeting today, I'm going to die. And they've been saying that for 20 or 30 years.
Crazy.
Okay, now how we identify ourselves in the meetings we have at our place, community meetings, like, hey, my name's Rob, I'm a grateful child of God, and I've struggled with alcohol, depression, anxiety, gambling in my past, but I've been freed from that. We're children of God that have been freed from our addictions.
Yeah.
And we're still going to do things addictively, and no one's ever going to be perfect in that regards.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the difference is believing who we are in Christ. That's our identity.
Yes.
It's not our addiction. It's not the divorce. It's not prison. It's not the DUI. It's not any of those things. Yeah. Those are just things on a rap sheet that God clears away.
Yeah.
Because we get away from the shame and the regret and all those things if we're truly honest and seeking like repentance. And again, I'm not perfect in that. I like screw up daily in my life sometimes. I'm like, and marriage is hard when you've hurt somebody, you know? Yeah. And then sometimes you just feel like, hey, we just need to move on. And I was reading something a couple of days ago, just about like the struggles in marriage. Because a lot of our clients have these struggles too. Because it's like, I don't care if your UA says you haven't been doing marijuana, you're still acting like a jerk. I'm like, yeah, but they've been acting like a jerk for like 20 years.
Yeah. It's
not just going to change like overnight.
Yeah.
And some of the questions like, are we able to start anew? Or are we going to hold on to the past completely? Because it is a choice.
Yeah.
To be pissed off and continue to be mad at someone about something they did. And it hurt, and it's not to look the other way and be like, okay, yeah, I love you so much. Like, you know, I mean, you hear people like, well, I got raped when I was 15 years old. And I've forgiven the person. Yeah, and you don't have to ever be in the same room with the person ever again. You don't have to like them. You don't have to go out for coffee. But we can't let those traumatic moments in our lives define us going forward, right?
Yeah.
And so I think at some point in people's lives, it's just like, okay, are you going to keep the person under the thumb for the rest of their life? Or can you actually move on through biblical forgiveness in the people journey that people kind of have? It's not that simple. But I believe as Christians, it could be that simple, but it's not. You know what I mean? It's just there. It's not to say I'm going to forget and just be okay with the offenders.
Yeah.
But you also have choices. You also don't have to revisit that all the time as well and say, look, I'm not receiving that today. I'm a healed person. I'm transformed. That is not who I am anymore. And I don't identify with those mistakes in my past anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. I love what you said. I think I always wondered about that. Like people that go to AA meetings and they're like, you know, I'm a recovering alcoholic. It's like, that's not your identity, dude. You're a child of God. You're made in his image. And I love that approach. I think it's so beautiful. I had a question. I wanted to ask you, what would you say to someone who like drinks every night, is using drugs, they're watching pornography, maybe they're gambling, but they're like, you know, I'm functioning fine, so I'm good. Like, what do you say to that person?
The functioning alcoholic.
Yeah.
That's one of my least favorite phrases. It's like, yeah, you might be functioning. And I'll ask them like, well, what does functioning look like to you?
Yeah.
You know, like, what does it look like to you? And if their thing is like, they talk about like boats or cars or pool table, shooting pool or whatever. I'm like, okay, well, you got a pool table that's functioning, right? But all the balls fall down to the pocket on the bottom left.
Yeah.
Okay. It's a functioning table, but you have to overcorrect all the time to get it to like go where you want it to go. Is that the life you want to keep having? Or would you rather have a nice, pristine pool table and actually play pool? You know, I've used that analogy on someone before, like, well, yeah, like when the felt sucks, I'm like, okay, yeah, so what is the felt related to your life right now? And it's just have those visual things with people. But functioning alcoholic, you might be functioning, but you're not functioning to your full capacity.
Yeah.
Like business owners are great examples. Well, I'm a multimillionaire type A personality, narcissistic kind of guy. I'm like, yeah, but congratulations on being successful. That's great.
Yeah.
And okay, you make $10 million a year. You could probably be making $100 million a year if you got rid of the addiction and quit being a jerk to your spouses or your employees and stuff. Like, think of what it could look like if you were functioning at 20% more in your life. I mean, I don't know what are the 85% of statistics are made up on the spot or whatever.
Is that true?
Whatever. I just made it up. But it's like from our capacity as humans, we do not use our potential in our brain to the capacity that we could. You think about AI now, our brains are actually that capable.
Yeah.
We just don't use it as much anymore. But functioning alcoholic, you're not functioning, but how could you function better if you quit watching porn every night?
Yeah.
How could you function better if you weren't spending 10 hours a month at the casino? I had one guy tell me, I did an intervention out in Vegas.
Yeah.
And he didn't want any help at all. It was the middle finger, and it was just one of those things, right? But he agreed to do some coaching with me to get his family off his back.
Yeah.
So I call him a couple days later, and he's sitting there going like this. He's like, hopefully you can hear on the sound that I'm actually taking a drink, and he's like, has a little burp, and you hear the slot machines in the background. I'm like, dude, are you hanging out in a casino right now? I was like, no. I said, what's that sound in the background? He's like, oh, some guy's phone.
Oh, he was in a casino.
And I said, you're totally lying to me right now about where you're sitting.
Yeah.
Like, just be honest with me. He's like, well, what's the big deal? I'm just playing slots. It's like, and that's what your wife's complaining about. You always leave to go drink and play slots. It's like, well, I'm not drinking now. I was like, well, what's that thing you're sipping on? It's like, how do you know I'm drinking right now? I'm like, because I hear you gulping. It was just the funniest thing.
That's
like,
so funny.
I'm like, bro, listen, man, I'm hanging out back in Colorado. I'm getting ready to go hiking with friends or whatever. Feel free to sit in the casino all you want to, but we're done coaching until you want to be honest with me. So I fired him.
Wow.
He called me 4 years later and said, can I still get the credit for the coaching that you had? Like whatever. Yeah. And I was like,
did he sober up?
No. Oh, no.
Oh, man.
No. But he wanted coaching. I was like, yeah, we can do it. And I set a time up for him. He didn't show up. And I'm just good about following with people, but I don't even remember what your original question was. But that's the chaos of life and stuff. It's like wild, crazy stories of, just helping people. But the reality of this is I haven't been pulled over for drinking and driving since I got sober. Yeah. And if you quit the porn, your relationships will grow. If you quit the gambling, your money will grow. If you quit whatever's holding you back, it will hopefully grow. I'm not guaranteeing it, but the chances of it growing are better. And I don't care if you're a highfalutin CEO making millions of dollars and stuff like that. And you're like, well, I don't need that. I'm totally set. I'm like, well, yeah, but your loved ones, they're still eating your dust when you leave them at home. And yeah, I'm not shocked your wife's having an affair on you. She's never home. She shouldn't be. And that's her excuse or whatever it is, right? We all have excuses.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, the road to being a Christian is not like it's guaranteed to be easy, happy, joyous, and free. But it's better than live my life in recovery saying, my name's Rob, I'm an alcoholic 30 years down the road. And if I don't go to the meeting, I'm going to get drunk. Like, yeah, my name's Rob. I'm a child of God and I'm living freely right now.
Yeah.
And I mess up daily, but I'm not drinking. I'm not drugging. Like I'm striving to be more like Jesus.
Yeah.
Is a better striving than to not become like somebody else. Does that make sense? Like people say, I don't want to be like my dad. I love my dad. Hey, Dad. Hey, Mom. When I share my story, sometimes my mom will call like, gosh, I wish I just would have done better. Or I'm like, Mom, I went down the road I went down.
Yeah.
And I went down the road. It's not your fault.
That's your choice. Yeah.
It's like if we try to play God and it's like, well, if I just wouldn't have done that, if I would have protected you, I'm like, you would have. I'm like, you don't know that. Maybe this was God's plan.
Yeah.
And some people hate that, by the way. It's like, God's plan was not for you to go do this and do that. Well, he gave me a long leash.
Yeah.
And I chose to have my Jesus on a bookshelf, stay on the bookshelf and get dusty.
Yeah.
I knew I was doing was wrong.
Yeah.
But God gives us those leashes, I think, sometimes, and then eventually he's going to yank you back so hard enough. It's like, whoa, okay.
Yes.
Okay, I think we're good.
Yeah. And look what you're doing with it now, man.
Yeah,
I think
it's cool
that's
stuff.
Beautiful. Yeah, I think it's so cool what you're doing. I want to go back to your wife for real fast because I forgot to ask you. Because I think a lot of people that probably struggle with addiction and they're married, their relationships fall apart, they go through divorce, stuff like that. How did you actually like amend the relationship when you got home from prison? Like, what was the actual like healing process in that?
That continues to go on still today.
Wow.
And I say that because like there's a lot of pride in me as well. So even though she decided to stay with me and all those things, when I got back, I had this phrase I used to say, which a therapist squashed down the road, because we had a rough marriage.
Yeah.
It wasn't like picture perfect. And I used to say things like, well, we got here together. But the mental breakdown. I'm like, we got there together. If you wouldn't have done this, then I wouldn't have done this. Yeah. And there was a lot of finger pointing. So I didn't really get a whole lot of relationship healing in prison. So when I came back, as grateful as I was to still be with them, and I wasn't even conscious of certain things, my wife had certain expectations on how I would behave and react and be grateful. And I had my own expectations. I still wanted some answers. I was still angry. I was like, I didn't get to this bad mental health place on my own, of all the things I would blame her for. And I had a lot of anger towards a lot of things that led up to that moment.
Yeah.
So for me, the healing, it's been an interesting journey with us. And two of the promises God gave me when I was in prison: one, I healed your marriage, and two, you'll get out of the first round in the halfway house. Well, the second one happened real quickly because I was out in 10.5 months.
Yeah.
And the other one is this elusive target, I think, sometimes. But what I will say is we have continued to press in and pursue healing and understanding along the way.
Yeah.
We've done marriage intensives. We get a little movement forward, and then we can both backslide in our relationship. So I would say that I would say that sometimes amendments don't look the way the other person wants them to look. But I feel like I have amended and been remorseful and stepped into that space. But there's still hurt and healing that my wife has. And it comes up with certain different situations in life too. The triggers and things. And we went through this really great program at our a church called Re-Engage. Okay. So we went through this 4-month marriage intensive in 2019, and I feel like we got a lot of headway. At least I did.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, we negatively interpret a lot of stuff in our marriage. We both create these crazy false narratives like, well, they didn't do that, so they must think this, and it's up in the head, right? I don't know if you ever do that about people, but it's like, but that's not even what happened. But it's how it's internalized. So we went through this 14-week thing at Foothills Bible Church called Re-Engage. Have you ever heard of that before?
No, never.
So it's like a marriage thing. There's 15 billion different marriage programs out there, but I liked this one. It was a lot of hope with people that were on the brink of divorce or they just were dead in their marriage. And my wife and I, we've used the D word in our relationship, and it's an ugly word. Yeah. It leads to ugly conversations, And it's just two hurt people coming at each other. But we went through this thing with other couples, which I think was really key. And it's like, if we look at like this coaster here I have on this table, or anyone, if you stare at a coaster and it's circular, well, this is the only thing I have control of is my circle of influence, which is what I can control for myself. Yeah. And then my wife has hers over here. And the hope is when those circles intersect, it's not like a tidal wave. It's more like a nice, peaceful union of two bodies of water. Yeah. But if I don't work on my stuff over here and own my things and work on me getting better and improving and stuff like that, I can't control her anymore. Yeah. And she can't control me anymore. But if we both truly pursue authentic relationship with Christ and truly forgive and truly move forward and make amends biblically and those things too, which we did in that 14-week program, which was great. Now we just have to keep using the tools. So I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's been hard. Yeah. And I think can be two prideful people in a relationship. They're just like, well, I'm not going to give in till you do it and make those changes. Yeah. And we see that enough in other people, in other relationships. It's like, well, if you do this, I'll do this. Yeah. That's not what God calls us to do or calls me to do. He calls me to do this. Yeah. My circle of influence over here. Yes. And she calls her to do her circle of influence. And if we both can do that, it's a much more peaceful journey that we have together. But we haven't quit on each other. It's been hard. We're still married, 20 years in October coming up. Wow. And, our kids see that we continue to, just fight through the struggles. We're not quitting. So I'd say I wouldn't sugarcoat that. Sometimes you hear people like, well, you were pretty honest about that. I'm like, well, why not be? Yeah. And it's hard. It's been hard. Yeah. But I feel like I get in the way of me. Yeah. And I'll just say my wife can get in the way of her.
Yeah.
If we can both get out of our own way, that those circles, and there's still pain there on both sides, that we just got to let those kind of things go. And I'm pretty honest about it too. It's kind of, sometimes it's like, shut your mouth, but I'm not going to sugarcoat that, because sometimes I feel as the owner of this business we have of helping people heal and move forward and things like that, and doing podcasts and being interviewed and stuff like that, I got to have all our crap together.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you right now, I will never have my crap together.
Yeah.
But it's better crap than it was before. Doesn't stink as much. So.
Yeah. Amen, dude. Yeah. How have your kids healed through that journey? Like, are they in a good place now? Have they forgiven you?
So interesting. So they were so young.
Yeah.
So my son was, so it was interesting. So when I went to prison, my son talked all the time. Like, the kid never, was just rarely quiet. He made friends with everybody. It was like talking to a little adult.
Yeah.
I remember his elementary school principal was like, talking to Zeke is much more intellectual than talking to half the parents I talked to, But when my wife, was home by herself, raising the kids, protecting me in the story with them, which thank you for doing that, Jen, and just really protective of that. But my son, people say, oh, well, where's your husband? He's like, oh, my dad, well, we lost our house in a fire, and my dad, he went to camp for a little while, and he should be home soon. And you put those two things together. Okay, your dad's at the house on fire. He's in prison. Like, those things. But after I got home, he would ask a lot, like, Dad, like, what happened? And I prayed about it a lot, because I think sometimes we can flippantly just tell our children stuff. I'm like, I need to wait till he's ready. And I would ask my guy friends and mentors and stuff. I'd say, hey, when would you tell your kid? And Zeke was doing this project at school, and it was about building Legos, and he built like a fire station. And he's like, oh, and they asked me to share, and I get to be on the video and stuff. And so I'm like, oh no, okay, I don't want some other kid to go, your dad was in prison, right?
Yeah.
And so Zeke, it was in this moment, and it eventually got to the age where it was like, okay, I think it's time to tell him.
Yeah.
And my wife and I had to be on the same page too, of like what we're going to say. Right. And not like, I always felt like she was going to like throw me under the bus, And so we just sat down with Zeke, and I was like, hey man, well, what do you think happened that night? And you're his version. Well, he left the candles on and the drapes caught on fire or whatever. And I just had to let him tell his version. I said, I have to be honest with you, son, that's not what happened. And I had to tell him what happened, and he looked at me. I haven't thought about this in a while, but like, he just looked at me like Jesus would have. And he just said, Dad, I love you more.
Wow.
And I'm like, holy cow, like, I just had an encounter with Jesus through my son.
Wow.
And it was so powerful. And down the road, as he's older, I don't know how that shakes out, but my son doesn't look at me any differently.
Yeah.
My daughter doesn't ask questions.
I
don't even know if she's heard like other podcasts and stuff, or if she even knows like I was in prison, or I don't know what her version of it is, because she doesn't ask.
Really?
Yeah. And I'm sure there's that curiosity, or maybe she just doesn't even care. She's just glad Dad's home. And now I got home in 2015, so she would have been 3 or 4 at the time, right? So she was still really, really young. So her memories of that won't be as vivid as my son's.
So they're still young.
No, well, they're 18 and 16 now.
18, yeah.
But when I went to prison, they were like 4 and 2.
Wow.
Right. But my son always had that curiosity. My daughter's just never really asked, like, what happened. I'm sure at some point, if she does, I will sit down with her, but my wife and I will do that like together, but she's just never really asked.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Men and women, I guess we process things differently. If I was the son, I'd be like, Dad, what the heck went down, bro?
Yeah. And his friends know, like, he's shared stories with them, because Zeke has, again, our children, I would say, are the first it's the first generation of Lohman family members that have not dealt with addiction.
Praise God.
And substance dependence and stuff. And we prayed for that. That's why Ezekiel, as God strengthens, which is amazing. So he's the firstborn, and that was it, and I just feel like that God's blessed with that, because, man, if I had to raise me, I don't know, Mom and Dad, I don't know how you did it.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to.
Parents right there.
Yeah. And my brother was kind of nuts. I was just more of the idiotic person.
How did your parents take all this that went down? I forgot to ask you that.
Yeah.
How did your parents react when they found out you're going to prison for arson?
Man, it was just hard. Like, so my parents, I feel like they kind of like to keep stuff quiet. Yeah. Right. And so they were kind of going at it alone for a little while.
Yeah.
And then they started bringing in some of their other friends to kind of share more of the story with them. And I think that was really, really helpful. But they just didn't know. For most of my life, they're like, I don't know what to do with Rob, because through college and high school, I was just wild, and it was just kind of like, well, we just have to trust God with him. Yeah. And I think that's what they had to settle. We just have to trust God with the outcome.
Wow.
Like from my understanding, they don't carry any shame or anything around it.
Yeah.
Sure, in the beginning they did.
Yeah.
Like my brother, when I told him I was going to prison, he's like, or I was probably going to prison. I didn't know yet because of the sentencing. He's like, what are you talking about? And that was a hard conversation. And when you have to, when you owned up to your wife that you did it, that was a hard conversation. And some friends that judged us, were like, just judged us, which rightly so. They didn't know the story. Yeah. And I remember one buddy, like they just didn't understand like the mental health struggle. Then he had a breakdown in his life. And ended up spending about 10 days in a place for mental health breakdowns. Yeah. And then he kind of got me, because I wasn't walking around setting stuff on fire like downtown Denver or whatever. It was just, it was my mental breakdown is how that happened. Some people do other things. Yeah. And I've heard plenty of stories since then of like, well, I didn't mean to do that. I'm like, yeah, but you had a mental breakdown. And I won't share the stories because maybe offline I'll tell you those. Yeah. But it's like, wow. Then they could kind of understand my story a little bit more of like, geez, I didn't mean to do that, but it just happened. Well, how the heck did I get there? I don't even know. Yeah. It's like, because you had a breakdown. That's what it's called. A breakdown. Yeah. And breakdowns are sometimes just unexplainable. And I just came to peace with it. Yeah.
You forgiven yourself?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I've done the work. Like after the fire happened, Pastor Don McCreevy with Exchange Life Ministries, go check them out. He started walking me through Dr. Neil Anderson's book, Victory Over the Darkness. And it's all about who we are in Christ. Yeah. And so I've totally forgiven myself for that. And that's the beautiful thing about being a Christian and loving Jesus is the shame can go away. Yes. And sometimes I'll share my story, and I hear a couple people have said before, like, we just share your story like it's no big deal. Yeah. Like, yeah, because I've been freed from it. I'm not cavalier. Yeah. There's pain, and I don't ever deny that. Yeah. But it's just I don't have any identity attached to it anymore. Yeah. It's like what happened in my life. And it's not easy for people to just hear people say it that way. Yeah. It's like, well, aren't you going to cry every time you tell? I was like, no, because I'm healed. I don't have to weep every time I tell a story. Yeah. And sometimes just the Holy Spirit just gets you in those moments. Like, I haven't thought about my son and sitting on the couch with my wife on the other couch and just like, I feel like I saw your eye tear up a little bit, I think. Yeah. But it was like Zeke sitting there. It's like, it was literally like talking to Jesus. It's crazy. Bro.
Yeah. Forgiveness of God is insane. Yeah. Dude, if you could sit across from 14-year-old Rob, like before the addiction, before prison and everything that followed, what would you tell him?
You are totally God's beloved son. Yeah. Your identity is not in others.
Amen. Amen.
If we get that as teenage kids, dude, child psychologists would be out of business. Yeah. 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 Addiction centers would be closed down. Prisons would be empty. Yes. Think about that. If we can get that message as a kid and believe it, dude, I mean, life would be completely different. Yeah, really. Locking people up in prison ain't the answer, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Jesus is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rob, thank you for your time, man. This has been so awesome. I've learned a lot. For the people that want to learn about your facility, where can they find you?
Go to ChristianRehabServices.com.
Awesome. And then if they want to buy your book, it's addictioninterventionbook.com.
Yeah, or just reach out to me. I'll just send you one, sign it from my house, whatever. I mean, yes, you can buy it on Amazon. It's kind of the easiest thing to do, but if they go to the website or they can just give me a call off the website and we'll figure something out.
Awesome, dude. Yeah. Well, thank you for your time, brother.
Yeah. That was God awesome. Bless you. Thanks for the invitation.
Thank you guys for tuning in. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Go check out Rob Lohman, liftedfromtherut.com, addictioninterventionbook.com, and roblohmanspeaks.com. God bless you guys, and we'll see you in the next episode. Peace.